Destiny 1 handled its loot better, and I'm tired of pretending it didn't. There, I said it. But there's more to it than that. I think most of us can agree that loot nowadays in Destiny 2 just feels lackluster. The chase isn't really there for a lot of us anymore. I made a community post recently, and the overwhelming majority of people voted that loot is no longer interesting, and the system as a whole could use a change. This is an issue that I feel gets really overshadowed in the grand scheme of things. At the end of the day, Destiny is a looter shooter, right? This video is bound to rock the boat at least a little bit. I don't normally like to talk about things like this because, well, that's not really what we do around here, and more often than not, people get really mad at each other for simply having a different opinion or being at a different skill level from another person. I've said this before, but nuance is very important to me. So all I ask is that when we disagree with each other, and when you disagree with your fellow Guardians, please keep it civil. Consider the side of the person you disagree with and try and see it from their perspective. You don't have to agree, but saying the other person is just wrong, or they're just a filthy sweat or a dirty casual, that doesn't help anybody. It certainly doesn't help Bungie. My goal here is to be concise and offer feasible solutions, because ultimately, nuanced feedback is the most actionable feedback we can give Bungie so that they know what we want or don't want. Anyway, with all that being said, why does loot feel so boring in Destiny 2? And how would I go about fixing it? Well, let's talk about it. Before we get started, this video is brought to you by Raycon. With Mother's Day coming up, Raycon makes the perfect gift. Whether she's doing work, at the gym, or just taking phone calls to keep in touch with friends and family, let's face it, our moms are busy. With Raycon's everyday earbuds, Bluetooth pairing has never been easier, and premium audio has never been more affordable. Raycon brings you a 32-hour battery life, active noise cancellation, and multi-point connectivity, so you can pair them with 2 devices at once. I love how compact Raycon's case is. Even with the case protector, it's small, sleek, and really easy to take around with me wherever I go. Now, I'll be honest, given my line of work, I don't go out often. But since I'm home alone a lot, I like to always be listening to music or videos while I take care of my chores and work. Also, even with the case, you can still utilize their wireless charging feature, which is really cool. I know my mom loves to take her dog on walks and catch up with family over the phone. With Raycon's everyday earbuds, she can have a compact and reliable way to stay in touch without having to relearn how Bluetooth works every time. These earbuds also come in a large swath of colors, so you're sure to find one that fits. So go to buyraycon.com/toadsmoothie to get 20% off site-wide, brought to you by Raycon. This deal is just for my audience, so take advantage of it while you can and get a great Mother's Day gift at a fraction of the price. Of course, a huge thanks to Raycon for always supporting what we do around here and bringing you all some great deals. Now back to the task at hand. Okay, so let's start with this. As I said in the intro, Destiny is a looter shooter, or at least it was. In recent years, Destiny has drifted far more into what you may consider an MMORPG style of game first, and a looter shooter second. Some of you like this, and that's totally valid. However, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who prefers the more loot-based origins of the franchise. Now, you're gonna hear me make a lot of comparisons to the Borderlands franchise, especially later in the video. If you're unfamiliar, Borderlands is basically the king of looter shooters. It's kind of their thing. But if you ask me, I think Borderlands has a damn near perfect loot system, and I really wish Destiny would take some notes. I don't get to play the game as much as some of you do, so I want to hear from you. And to do this, I've put together a PowerPoint, and I want to step you through my idea for how I would fix this problem. I want you to tell me, be straight up with me, is my idea dog water? Am I cooking, or do I need to get out of the kitchen? This is a multi-stage thing, all right? Loot is no longer interesting. I think this is something that most people here generally agree with. Most of Destiny's loot looks or feels the same, specifically talking about legendary guns there. Exotics, while cool, have lost a lot of their allure and mystique. Armor has been pretty lame for a while, but Bungie does seem to be addressing that in Frontiers, so I'm not going to touch on armor here much. And we're so powerful now that the new loot is less exciting. I think how powerful we are, how strong our abilities have gotten, is having a trickle-down effect to the actual loot itself. Loot is too easy to get. Exotic weapons are mostly tied to quests at this point. making them very easy to acquire. You are showered with legendaries upon completing most activities in the game. Focusing and crafting has made getting good rolls on gear easier than ever, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. In my opinion, it's a bad thing. I've mentioned this a couple of times on stream before. It actually bothers me, and some of you are going to completely agree with me on this point. Some of you are not going to get what I'm saying at all. Actually bothers me when I complete an activity and I'm just showered in loot. That bothers me. I don't like it because A, it crowds my inventory with a bunch of shit that I don't ultimately care about because I'm just gonna use my summoner anyway. I think most of you guys can probably relate to having a full engram inventory and just not even caring enough to go decrypt it. I can't remember the last time I went to go decrypt an engram because I wanted to see what was in the engram. I'm already prepared to receive comments of, you're looking at Destiny 1 through rose-tinted glasses. Destiny 1 was not that good. I agree. I do think a lot of us look at Destiny 1 with rose-tinted glasses. I'm not saying Destiny 1 was perfect. I would argue that Destiny 1 is a more true to form looter shooter. It's just super easy to get loot nowadays. I think, again, I would not say this is controversial. I think most people agree with this. Let's keep moving along here. What is the point of a rarity system? Destiny has only really had two rarities for a while now, legendary and exotic. I use the word rarities very loosely. Legendary has become the base weapon rarity, making exotic less of a rarity and more of a label. Common, uncommon, and rare have not been relevant or accessible for a while now. And why even have a rarity system if there are only two rarities? What makes a legendary weapon or armor piece legendary? This is something I have a really big problem with. What is the point in calling legendary weapons legendary? There is none. There is no point, with the exception of maybe like raid weapons. The rarity system exists in sub-levels between legendaries, adepts, exotics, and like curated roles and things like that. The rarity system is basically only relevant in your first 100 hours or so. So I'm recording this while editing, and I just realized that that's actually not true. I've started new accounts before and new characters for challenges such as the Nuzlocke videos, where I only have 6 hours to prepare a character for a legendary campaign run. And within those 6 hours, often by the 2nd or 3rd hour mark, I'm already finding copious amounts of legendaries and exotics. So the rarity system isn't even relevant right now outside of your first 2 hours, maybe 3 hours of gameplay. I just wanted to jump in here and add this in because I feel like this really hammers the point home even further, but I digress. But I don't like how the looter shooter doesn't really have a rarity system anymore. At least not one that's very obvious, you know? It's a very technical system. Exotics used to be the rarest thing in the game. We all have stories about when we got our first exotic in D1, about when we got certain exotics we were chasing in D1. It's because they were fucking rare. Quest exotics, which I would argue are not rare at all. That is not even in the conversation of rarity. But then you have stuff like stoicism, ergo sum, dungeon and raid exotics. Now we're talking. But again, it's exotic is a label. It's not a rarity. It's like a label. This discussion is on loot. However, I feel it's important that we mention abilities here as well, because they do play a role. Abilities can be powerful, but maybe they should have longer cooldowns. I know some people don't like that. I'm just giving suggestions, okay? Or maybe enemies need to be a bit tougher. When I'm in the heat of combat and I have abilities at my disposal as often as I do, it takes the focus away from the weapons. I don't want the focus to be entirely on the weapons. I love my abilities. Abilities are like my favorite part of Destiny. However, there's a balance, and I feel like Prismatic really tipped that balance off. So what's the solution? Well, spoiler alert, it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy fix at all. What I'm not about to say is Destiny 3. I'm not going to say we need a sequel. I'm not going to say our vaults need to be blown up. However, that's a different discussion for another time. What can we do now? Step one is I think you need to decouple exotics from quests. Mostly. RNG exotics are exciting. Some people hate them, but they are exciting. You remember those clips from D1 of people reacting to getting Icebreaker, reacting to getting Vex, opening. You would never see a Cryptarch opening video in D2. You just wouldn't see it because the Cryptarch is fucking lame. He used to be so cool. We used to gamble, and that was fun. Exotic class items, I think, are a lot more interesting. Raid exotics, and ergo sum fold into that. Raid exotics are a lot more exciting. Yes, it can be a pain in the ass to get it, but it's so exciting when you do. Sometimes, not everyone is going to get everything, and that is completely okay. Not everyone needs to get everything. What's important is player stories, and whether you like it or not, stuff that isn't guaranteed is what makes player stories. In Destiny 1, I was farming for Red Death. I really wanted it for some reason, and just when I was looking for it the least, just when it was not on my mind, I played a Crucible match, and right at that end screen where everyone gets their loot, I got Red Death, and I freaked out. Xur, I didn't even think about Xur, dude. Remember in D1 when Xur came to town? That was like, you were praying. You were like, Xur, please have the guns or the armor that I want. The gun, he had one gun. Xur was the bad luck protection. Now he's just another way in the sea of ways to get exotics. Raid weapons should not be craftable. It still surprises me when I remember that this is a thing. Now, I want to interject here just to make something clear. I fully do understand the argument of, well, Toad, I don't have time to grind for X amount of hours every week just to maybe get the gun I want. What about me? And that's a fair argument. I don't necessarily have time to grind copious amounts of hours just to maybe get a piece of gear I want. But Toad, you play Destiny for a living. No, I edit and animate for a living. The amount of time I spend actually playing Destiny 2 to get the footage I need for the content I make is a small fraction of the amount of time I spend editing and animating for these videos. I don't come home from work or school at 5. I just keep working sometimes until I go to bed, which I know is not healthy. And I want to make it clear that I'm not complaining. I love my job and I choose to work that much because, well, I want to keep this job. But I say that to let you know where I'm coming from. I'm not a content creator that has endless hours to grind for loot. Some content creators do have that kind of time, and that's great. But in the time that I do get to occasionally grind, I want to be excited about the thing that I'm chasing. I want it to feel elusive. It's the same reason I love shiny hunting in Pokemon. The type of change I'm proposing here would technically negatively affect someone who plays as infrequently as I do. But I still strongly feel it would be better for the health of the game and its player base at large. And hey, maybe if the loot was more rare or interesting or diverse, I would feel the urge to play more often. Who would have thought? Again, I know this is not a position everyone agrees with. I just want you to know where I'm coming from when I say this. Alright, back to the PowerPoint. Not even in Destiny 1, in Destiny 2, if I wanted the Fatebringer, the Smite of Moraine, Word of Crota, I just had to do the raid over and over again. And you know what was great about that? It gave me a reason to do the raid. And I'm not shitting you right now. The only reason that I do raids anymore is to do fun stuff with my friends. It's not for the loot at all. I don't remember the last time I got something from a raid that I was like, that's something I don't have. That's unique and different, because everything is so easy to get. And then there's a chest at the end where you can get you can pick a raid weapon and then be like, I want this one to have a red border so that I'm closer to crafting this. I personally think crafting has had a bad influence on the game. I really do believe that. I don't think crafting has been good for the game. Streamlining the game experience is good, but so is a meaningful grind. Not everyone is going to get everything, and that's okay. That individualism is what creates player stories. Oh, Crypt, I just saw you in here. Hey, welcome, my friend. Also make perks exclusive to raids. For example, Reconstruction should have been exclusive to Deep Stone Crypt. Yes. Oh my god, yes. So the controversial thing that I want to say that's not a part of this presentation, I'm like afraid to say this. I think sunsetting was a good idea. What? Not that I'm not saying it should have stuck around, and I'm not saying I would have been the one to make that decision. I'm glad I am not the one who easy there. When you have a God roll Zali's Bane, why would you ever use anything else? And maybe I should rephrase. I shouldn't say sunsetting was a good idea in the way that they implemented it. What I should be saying is I completely understand their rationale and I agree with their rationale. That's a better way for me to phrase it. Is we all have such good stuff. Why would you ever use anything else? You wouldn't unless it was objectively more powerful, hence power creep being completely out of control. Exactly. Just don't then. But I don't like that. I don't like that mentality of just just handicap yourself. And actually, I literally do. Sometimes you'll see me on stream because I get so bored. I love my summoner. It's one of my favorite weapons that I own, but Jesus, I get so bored of using it all the time. Last stream, we streamed a couple days ago. I literally just pulled out like some random scout rifle. I had never used it before. Literally just to use something, like just to feel something, anything. Let me also give Bungie credit. They're doing something right now that I think is really smart. They've talked about their portal system, which is basically just going to be a new way to choose which activities you go do, like a new UI. And they talked a little bit, if I remember correctly, about certain activities that would be like, this is Crucible, but just with new weapons. Like new weapons only Crucible. Season of the Behemoth Crucible. And I think that's a great idea. Because if you want to play normal Crucible, go play it. Go use whatever you want. But if you just want to play with new stuff, go play Season of the Behemoth Crucible. I think that's a wonderful change. As someone who doesn't really like interact with the artifact much, which I do see your guys' point. I've seen a couple people mention the artifact. The artifact helps. It helps a little bit. It's like a seasonal meta kind of thing. I don't engage with it much. Part of the reason I don't engage with it much is because I don't care to do the higher level activity that you're most likely to use the artifact for. I don't feel the need to use the artifact for basically anything, because I'm already not really doing raids because I don't feel the need to do them because the loot isn't there in my opinion. I'm definitely not doing GMs for that reason. If the loot isn't there, I'm not going to use the artifact because I'm not going to use the artifact for seasonal content, you know? Oh yeah, here we go. Bring back the other rarities. I'm not trolling, I'm not memeing, hear me out. Okay. This is one that I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on, but let me explain. I'm not saying I want whites, greens, and blues to come back so they can clog your postmaster and take up space. What I am saying is that their presence does a few things. It gives a stronger sense of progression, especially in the earlier to mid stages of play when you're maybe gearing up to do your first raid or your first nightfall or dungeon or whatever. And mainly, their existence makes legendary and exotic gear feel more special. It gives them some much needed aura. I remember being excited getting a legendary in D1 just because it was a legendary. It excited me because it wasn't the stuff I was used to seeing in the world. It wasn't a common or an uncommon or a rare. It stood out. I do not think the lower rarities should go to your postmaster. As a matter of fact, I think having a more configurable postmaster would be great, because I cannot be the only one with a postmaster full of legendaries or exotics that I just don't care about, which is kind of exactly why I'm making this video. But I do think these other rarities should drop from enemies in the world to make the world feel a little more diverse, but also to make the, hopefully now harder to find, legendaries and exotics more exciting. Having other rarities makes the top rarities feel more special and adds a stronger sense of progression. Don't make me pick them up. I don't want them to crowd my inventory, but give me the option. Seeing a legendary drop amongst a sea of commons and uncommons makes that legendary feel more special. And also, how do we feel about removing auto decryption? I saw a couple people mention that in the post. My thought process with this, right, is you bring back the other rarities, but you can customize your postmaster to be like, hey, only pick up rare and above. If let's say you're a new player and you're like Guardian rank 2, I still want rares, but only keep rare and above. And then once you're like, I'm above rares at this point, I've moved on to legendaries, all my inventory is legendary stuff, only keep legendary and above. What I'm proposing here, how would I say this? It's more of a vibe change, right? I think it'd be cool if there were perks exclusive to rares, make some hidden gem situations. That would be cool. Exactly. They're called legendaries for a reason. They should be hard to get. And raid weapons should not be handed out at Hawthorne. Raid weapons should not be craftable. Raid weapons should be fucking rare. It should be hard to find the weapon that you want. I think we're coming up on the biggest change here. Weapons should drop in the world like they do in Borderlands. Let me preface this by saying this is never gonna happen. This is never gonna happen. And I wish it would. I don't think it wouldn't happen because Bungie's resistant to it. I think it's a really big change. Let me explain why I think this is important. I think Borderlands has the perfect loot system. When you kill the warrior in Borderlands, he dies and the loot flies out of his mouth all over the field, and you know you got something special. Look right up there, when you see that yellow beam amongst this sea of legendaries, rares, commons, uncommons, You see that yellow beam, you kill Atheon, he throws a bunch of loot out all over the field. You don't care about 90% of it. You'll check out some of the legendaries, you'll maybe check to see if you have a unique rare weapon in there, but you see that yellow beam, you got Vex Mythoclast. And obviously it'd be instanced. It wouldn't be like in Borderlands where you'll have to fight over the loot. It would be just like it is now. We already have like the stat cards on our weapons. The stat box pops up over the weapon. You look at it, you see the stat box, you're like, that's Vex. It's better than my gun in all of these ways. It has a little bit less impact. That would be so cool. And you look at it, you see it on the ground in front of you. Vex Mythoclast, it's laying there. You hold X, you pick it up, it's in your hand. Again, and this is why I brought up, let rares, uncommons, and commons come back. Yeah, I mean, if you killed Atheon and he just pooped out a Vex Mythoclast and just Vex Mythoclast, like, it's cool that it's there in the world, but it has that aura to it. Exactly, a diamond in the rough when it's amongst a sea of garbage. I think that's important. Let's say you open a chest in Savathun's throne world. Instead of just getting a pop-up on your screen with like hidden weapons, it actually just pops out of the chest. And you're like, oh shit, I can either pick it up or I cannot. It doesn't get auto-deposited in your inventory. You're just like, you look at it, you process it, you think about it, and you're like, that was cool. That was a nice little dopamine rush that I didn't know I needed. But Destiny isn't Borderlands. Maybe they should take some notes. Or let's say you're out in the wild in the Pale Heart and you kill a roaming knight, like a high value target. Instead of just dropping a chest, he actually like collapses and loot just falls out of him, you know? And you look at it and you go, oh shit, do I want to pick it up? Do I want to not? This, I think, is right on the edge. I think this is right on the edge of possibility. Borderlands weapons have a cost associated with them, right? Because you can sell them. See this right here? In Destiny, what you could do, if you picked this up and sharded it, you'd get 1,000 glimmer. That's the cost. If you don't pick it up, you're missing out on 1,000 glimmer. Or you can just pick it up and shard it. Or maybe instead of pressing X to pick it up, you hold Y and you just shard it right there. You just dismantle it on the ground. And then all of these commons, all of a sudden, all of this, they now have some value to you if you're really low on glimmer. You really low on glimmer, go kill Atheon, and now all of this shit that wasn't interesting to you before, just walk around the field, hold Y and shard it all. You just made an extra 5,000 glimmer. I think that's a really, really cool idea. I think it would be a very good change. I think it would psychologically get people a lot more excited for loot. I think it would offer different avenues to just play the game differently, experience things differently, get excited about things. Imagine if you got on Destiny tomorrow, right? Just imagine it for a second. And all of a sudden, dude, I just killed that thrall and it dropped a common pistol. I'm gonna go look at it. Okay, it's trash. I don't want it. I'll shard it. But it's cool that it happened. Every time you go out into the wild, there is a chance when you kill a thrall that it could drop an exotic. Imagine you kill a thrall and instead of dropping an exotic engram, it just straight up drops an exotic helmet. As if the thrall like killed another guardian and took his helmet and he was holding on to it and you killed it and took it back. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, you remember that shit. It just adds character, it adds personality, it adds story to an otherwise very lifeless loot system. We're playing Minecraft for efficiency right now. Let's play for fun. I don't think engrams need to be completely done away with. I think there is still a place for engrams. In D1, the way I got Gjallarhorn was from a legendary engram. My legendary engram depicts it decrypted into Gjallarhorn, and that's how I got it. I was playing with my parents, I screamed, I was so happy. I think engrams could fill that niche. Like, they're kind of a gamble. They're a slight gamble. This is a very big change, and I get that. That's why I saved it for last. Give me a 1 in the chat if you think that this and what we've talked about would be positive changes, good vibe changes. 2 if you think that this would be a bad idea. And like, it's fine if you're a bit in the middle, just which one do you lean more towards? Like, 3 is like, fuck no. Like, hell no. Final slide here. Is just for other suggestions, other idea suggestions, like could we incorporate ability loot, like augments or like aspects and fragment variations, and then like vehicle loot chases, you know, is there, let me ask you something. Would it really kill us? Would it really kill the game's, I don't know, balance to add more vehicles, like add the ability to summon a pike instead of a sparrow? Would that really kill the game's balance? Anyway, that's that. That's the Destiny loot problem and how I would fix it. At the end of the day, are some of these changes outside the realm of possibility? Who knows? Maybe. Probably. I'm not a game developer and I have no contact with Bungie, so I truly don't know. But I do recognize that some of these changes are easier than others. And I hope that at least some of you out there can resonate with the problems and solutions I've proposed here. And hey, if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. And I invite you to discuss this further in the comments section. I really do want to hear what you guys have to say on this. And hey, who knows? Maybe Bungie and the majority of you guys out there are actually really happy with where the loot economy is right now. Maybe things will only get easier to obtain going into Frontiers and beyond. And maybe you're okay with that. If that's the case, then yeah, I would be a bit disappointed. But I'm not gonna quit the game or make a follow-up Destiny is doomed video. Ultimately, I just love the world of Destiny, and I really do want what's best for all of you that play it, even if that means giving up on what I want from the game. I can still enjoy what Destiny has to offer, even if I think the loot chase isn't as good as it used to be. This world and the experiences I have with my friends are what keep me around. But if you had to ask me, this is how I would change the game if I were handed the keys. Anyway, if you made it to the end, seriously, thank you for listening, and let me know what you think down below. This is an ongoing discussion, and the bill doesn't end with me. Rest assured, the next video on the channel should be Redacted Episode 2, and I can't wait for you all to see it. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Destiny content, and until next time, Guardians, goodbye.